All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Tough Lift Podcast. This is episode 23 of season 2. Today's guest is Brittany Rucker of Bexar Barbell down in Texas. And I wanted her to come on before she shipped out to Thailand. And luckily we were able to sneak her on. She found a slot in her busy schedule before she hopped on. I think she was a little crazy. I actually pressured her to not do that, but she said she was available. So we found time. Today we're going to have a podcast talking about a couple topics that I think we resonate on pretty well. And then I sent her a fun thing through Amazon that we're going to use in our game at the end. Should be pretty entertaining. But first, Brittany, from my end, I've known in the scene for a little while. I'd say over the last few years, me and you have definitely gotten closer as peers in the sport. I've definitely watched you as an athlete. I remember watching you as an athlete and then as a coach. And then, as we've just continued to do more and more, we're like the middle-aged up-and-comers, I would say. We're not like in our 20s anymore, but we're not also like 50, 60-year-olds. So we're the 30-year-olds bopping around. You're 30, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a master's athlete yet, so yeah.
Yeah. Whoa. What makes you think I'm a master's athlete?
I don't know. The gray hair might be a giveaway.
I'm barely a master's athlete, all right?
Okay, well, I'm not at all, so.
That's fine. All right. But we're getting a little hostile towards my age. But Brittany is the head coach and owner of Bexar Barbell, like I said, in Texas. She's also the owner of Bear Creative Co., which we're going to talk on, which is a really cool side project that she does, which I really think is a smart idea. And then she's also soon to graduate with a bachelor's in business analytics. And as somebody that also did my college after being younger and while running a business, that is an accolade in itself. So Britt, I wanted to give you the floor now. And if you can, give us like an intro, not like your whole story of like, came out of the womb, went to elementary school, but like, who are you? What's your sporting background? What led you into coaching? And when did you open the gym?
Yeah. So I was actually born and raised in the Midwest. I grew up in Illinois. Ended up kind of moving back and forth between Illinois and Texas. And then
where in Illinois? I'm curious.
Southern, like an hour south of St. Louis.
Okay.
So little bitty tiny town. Graduating class of like 60 kids. So I was an EMT straight out of high school. When I was like 21, started doing CrossFit. Well, before that, played basketball in high school. Got into motocross when I was in my very early 20s, rode professionally for a couple seasons. It's just not super competitive for females, so it's like easy to kind of be professional, I guess. But anyway, I was pretty good. Ended up getting really hurt and couldn't ride anymore. Got into CrossFit. I was still working as a paramedic, had a lot of time off, and ended up starting coaching CrossFit. Really fell in love with it. When I was about 24, learned that weightlifting was even a sport. Someone was like, yeah, like you can just do these things. And I was like, oh my God, I don't have to row or do wall balls. That sounds great. So ended up talking to the owner of the gym.
You might hate me later, by the way.
That's fine.
That's all I'm going to say. That's the only hint I'm going to give. It's related to your CrossFit.
Yeah. Decided to get my USAW level 1 because I didn't really know, what else to do. Ended up going to that gym. They were the only big weightlifting club here in San Antonio, and then they had a CrossFit gym. So they ended up offering me a job coaching CrossFit there. Then I became a weightlifter. Ended up meeting my ex-business partner at that gym. We started TSS Barbell. I ran that and kind of started coaching up until early 2020. And then in 2020, when COVID happened, that's when we decided to split ways, and I started Bear. That's kind of been it ever since. I quit my job as a paramedic when I was 27 and just full in on coaching. And ever since then, it's been pretty crazy. So now this is all I do, even though that's a lot. But yeah, so yeah, I'm finishing my degree in May, and then I start a grad program. I still lift 4 to 5 days a week when I can, compete when I can. Pretty much given up on trying to compete at national meets just because there's always overlap no matter what. So this is pretty much my whole life now.
Yeah. And so when you made that shift from like actually enjoying coaching, what do you think, just real quick to touch on that, was like the thing that was like the aha moment to coaching? Because you kind of were the athlete.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like there was any part of there where you like segued really easily into it.
I think really when I started Bear, like I really didn't have a choice anymore. Like it was one of those things to where it happened in the middle of COVID, beginning, not even the middle. And it was kind of just like, it was just me. Like I had never even ran a business. I had zero business background. Like I co-owned a business, but even then, like I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I
Yeah.
still don't most days.
Yeah. That's
And so
real
really,
ownership, I think.
yeah, it just got to the point to where I feel like maybe in like 21, that's when I went to junior Pan Ams, both junior Pan Ams, because that's when it got pushed back. I went to Youth Worlds, and then a couple months later, I ended up going to a senior meet in Cuba, and it kind of just started like compounding to where I was like, all right, I can barely get like more than 2 training cycles in before I end up having to take time off because I'm traveling to coach. And so at a certain point, I've always been very, very competitive. But at a certain point, like I don't even want to say it was a decision. It just, I think most decisions aren't decisions. It happened. So I mean, I still enjoy lifting. I love competing. I love the sport as an
Yeah.
athlete as long as it. But I think for me, being an athlete is still really important because it like I feel how things feel, and so it's easier for me to relate to athletes when they're feeling things because I can be like, hey, like this is what I want you to feel, and I know that because I feel it.
Yep. Yeah. We had talked about that on the podcast I talked with Sean,
Mm-hmm.
and that's been a podcast topic that is come up in multiple podcasts I've actually listened to recently.
Mm-hmm.
Is just you don't have to be an elite athlete to be able to understand that, and that was one of the kind of the guiding principles. Like when I was a CrossFit coach as well, it's like you don't have to be able to do 10 unbroken muscle ups to teach a muscle up.
Right.
You want to be able to guide them through the motion and understand what you're trying to teach and know doing the CrossFit workout what it's going to feel like, or being a weightlifter what that set of 10 is going to feel like, and how to push through a sticking point,
Mm-hmm.
or how to drive off that block when you're exhausted and stuff like that. So I think that is really important. I think sometimes coaches get too wrapped up in, if I got to be an elite to teach elites. It's
Right.
like, no, you don't. You actually just need to
No,
care a lot.
you actually
So
don't. I don't think there's actually a lot of research out there that shows that the best coaches were usually pretty mediocre athletes. They know what it's
yeah,
like
yep,
they're athletic enough that they can do the movements, but they're not so talented that they don't like have the frustrations breaking stuff down. So I think like realistically, like if you can go to series, you can probably be a pretty good coach.
yep, I agree with that. So with that, so you start the club. Let's bring everything up to speed. Let's fast forward button this thing. So the club right now, let's talk numbers. How big is the club?
We have just under 300 members, maybe 250, 260, around there.
Okay, and you guys do a lot of remote athletes and I believe satellite locations too, right?
Yes, so we have a couple satellite locations. So that number doesn't include those locations. So actually, those locations are independently run by people that are my athletes. So
Okay.
the ones who run those locations, they're under Bear, and it was kind of just like I mentor them and I help them and kind of have them use the brand to obviously help grow it, but to give them some like notoriety in it.
Mhm.
Um, but that number is just ours. So we have a location out in or up in New Braunfels, and then 2 down south. So one out in Corpus, which is on like the beach area, and then in Edinburgh, which is the valley. So the 3 athletes that run those have been with me forever. And then here we have 4 other full-time coaches, meaning they don't do anything else. They just coach weightlifting.
That was my next
And
question, is what do you have for
yes,
coaching?
yeah. So Nicole, my wife, is our other head coach. She keeps everything together when I'm gone. Selena is one of our other coaches. She also holds my life together. Like my travel schedule, actually, she keeps track of. I don't even know when I'm going places most times. She pays
Yeah.
bills, she does payroll, all that stuff. And then Christian is one of our athletes, our coaches and athletes. It's been with me forever. Neil is one of our newer coaches. He came in with Selena. He's originally from Utah. He's been around the sport forever. So I have a really good like blend of coaches.
Yeah.
And then I do have maybe, man, 15 to 20 athletes who I've taught how to coach in a back room. So when we
Mhm.
go to big meets, I can set everybody up. So it truthfully takes a village. And
Yeah.
so we have a really good team of people that all work together. But yeah, like just around 250 athletes. We are actually over half is remote. So
Yeah.
we probably have 130 remote athletes, maybe
Awesome.
more actually. 150. I don't know. I personally mostly coach remote.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's, that's definitely, it pays homage to the whole like COVID timing stuff
Yeah.
because I definitely know from just coming into the sport when I did, and then just watching the experience here in Michigan, what happened in Michigan with the whole like COVID thing. Like a lot of gyms and gym owners just went under because they didn't want to do remote stuff. They didn't want to adjust
Yeah.
and flex. And I think, to be blunt, those of us that were like, I was already doing remote CrossFit coaching way back
Yeah.
in like 2010, 2011. And then when I shifted to weightlifting full time, it was like an easy transition. So I was already doing it going into COVID. And then watching a lot of these, gym owners that didn't want to do it or didn't want to adjust to it, it was sad because you just had to transition. Like you not having an option kind of made it like your bread and butter. And then it's clearly stayed that way. So that's good. It's convenient.
Yeah. When I started Bear, it was, May 20 of 2020 is when I signed like the LLC document and started everything. And we started with about 60 athletes that had come with me from the existing business. And maybe 35 of those were remote. So it was already a thing. And it kind of just all worked out in my favor that like I ended up finding a house that had a really big garage. I had athletes that helped me outfit it. Found some equipment that we could use because that was such a hard time to find weightlifting or any equipment for fitness. And so it all just kind of like, I would say over the last, 4 years fell into place, all of obviously with issues along the way. But it all just kind of worked out.
Texas has been a really interesting weightlifting scene. It's been like really big waves. Like, like when I got into the scene, like early 2010 range, like it was all Ursula's club. It was all Texas Barbell Club. And just a monster she was producing out there. And mind you, the record, it was male monster athletes. Like it was like the heyday of male weightlifting as far as I'm concerned of the last 20 years. I would agree
completely.
And like that was what was coming out of there. It was cool. And then and like Tim Swords has always been doing his thing down there, and there's a couple other notable like coaches in Texas, but there's never been like a mass club out of that area like we've seen in California, we've seen out of Florida. Which are the big weightlifting areas. There's always been like Texas weightlifting stuff, but never a mass club. And having a big club out of that region now, I think is finally filling the gap that's existed down there to where there is a mass region down there.
Yeah, everything's just so spread out in Texas. Like when I first got into weightlifting, it was pretty much just 210 weightlifting, which is Steve Galvan, and he ran it. And it was like a smaller club.
There's so many good coaches down there. It's just you guys are so fucking huge.
Yeah. And so, and then there were like maybe some smaller clubs in San Antonio, but not really. Like there's never really been. And I've had some people ask me that, like, how'd you guys get so big? And I'm like, well, here's the thing. Like if you're in San Antonio, we're really the only place to go. There's a couple of clubs in Austin, but none are that big. There's a couple of clubs in Houston.
My friends in the military, there's like just talking to them. I'm like, go to a weightlifting gym or even like a CrossFit gym. They're like, there are none by the base. I'm like, what the fuck do you mean there's none by the base? There's like, no, there's none by the bases.
Yeah, we get so many people that come here for like OTC, officer training, OTC, that come for OTC and then they come drop in and then they're like, oh my God, this place is so cool. Can I join? We're like, yeah, for sure. So they join for a couple months. And then there's been a couple times where people are like, man, I'm so sad I have to leave. And I'm like, we coach remotely. And they're like, what?
Yeah, you don't have to technically.
I have a lot of military.
I'm sorry.
Lot, all the branches.
More pains in the asses.
I mostly have Air Force and Army, so
half of us are pains.
It's not terrible. Yeah. We have one Space Force guy, one Space Force dude, a couple Marines, but mostly Army and Air Force.
Yeah. So no, it's great. There's, like I said, there's a lot of great coaches down there. I'm friends with a lot of people, mostly just because I talk to everyone. And it's cool to see that like the sport continues to grow down there. I'm always jealous of this sport in the south of our country. It's not the same. I've been fighting up here to make it. It's just small. Like it just continues to be a battle up here. Like I've always said, people are like, why is it so big in these other states? I'm like, generally in states where you're half naked most of the time, weightlifting and CrossFit is popular. In the north, you can hide under a hoodie and sweatpants most of the time, so people work out less. But
Yeah.
We're doing what we can up north.
Yeah.
I think you and me share the same mentality when it comes to coaching. I think that's one of the reasons me and you probably have connected on a few different things. We're all about kind of making like the sport fun, making sure athletes like enjoy it while they're doing it. And then also I think me and you are a little bit more empathetic when it comes to coaching and understanding that like athletes do have lives outside the gym. We're not like as authoritarian and dictatorship as maybe some of the old school that are out there. And it's for me at least, it's always been inviting to people to come to the gym because I've always made it that way. I've always wanted to get the old persona of like, hey, I'm very selective with who I train. You've got to be trying to go to the top of the mountain. You either want it or you don't. Like, are you fucking trying to be elite or not? And I'm all about like, whether you're 6 to 60, just come have fun. Like, we're going to have some ups and downs throughout this thing. And I understand if you have like a life, I understand if you have school or responsibilities. I'm also going to be your coach though. And like, homegirl, if you go out drinking with your girlfriends every weekend and then come to me bitching about how you're not losing weight and or not getting strong, I reserve the right to be like, well, here's what's going on. I'm going to call you out on that shit as well. It's a relationship. What one of my bosses dubbed the emotional bank account. I'm going to make an exchange there. And I think me and you see a lot on that eye to eye. And it's why people also potentially like working with you and like working with your community, because it is a sense of where they can feel comfortable working at like a good pace where their coach actually understands them. And it's not just like go until, the meat is ground and you're dead.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's meeting athletes where they're at. So it's obviously like, what do you want out of this? Right. Like I tell everyone, I'm like, look, like this is kind of a part-time job for you, but you're actually not going to make money. You're going to pay money. And you're probably going to have less of a life than you did before. And so it's like, you're essentially giving 10 to 15 hours a week to a part-time job that doesn't pay you. You're going to have to get massages. You're going to have to be mindful. You're going to pay to go travel. Like it's like it is a part-time job. And so, coaching is a privilege. Being someone's coach is a privilege. It's not like a high school coach where like they have to listen to you. It's like, hey, like if you're a dick to your athletes, they should leave. Like, why should they put up with you? It's one thing if they kind of need checked and, they have these big goals and they have these aspirations and you're like, hey, what are you doing? Like, come on. But it's just meeting people where they're at. Like sometimes I've had athletes reach out and they want to join. And then, we start talking and they're like, I just didn't know if I was good enough to be on your team. And I'm like, dude, the only prerequisite is being a good person. I don't actually care how much anyone lifts as long as you're a good person. Like I talked about this on a podcast recently, Aaron Williams is one of the, in my opinion, he's the strongest super whatever athlete in the country. And he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. I mean, all my higher level athletes, like, Estelle, super nice. Like all my athletes, they're just like good people. And that means way more to me than how much weight is on a barbell. Cause to me, it's even cooler. Like someone comes in and they're a new person and they meet Aaron and he's like, hey, what's up? My name's Aaron. And then they see him lift and they're like, holy shit. I'm like, yeah, he's actually super strong. But you just got to meet people where they're at and things change. Like they might come in and they're like, I never want to compete. I don't want to put a singlet on. Like, I don't want to do that. And you're like, yeah, okay, that's cool. And they're like, I don't have to compete. It's like, no, you don't have to compete if you don't want to. If you want to, obviously, yes, we can. And so I think that's the thing too that coaches forget. It's like our job is to like everyone comes in here with a problem. And that's what I tell all my coaches. I'm like, hey, when someone comes in and they have a problem and they're seeking for us to be the solution. That could be just somewhere to spend their evening so they're not at home, or they want to feel better about their bodies, or they want to be strong. Like we had a guy join and he'd never lifted a barbell in his life, never done a back squat. And I was like, so like what brought you to weightlifting? And he was like, I just want to get super strong and meet my genetic ceiling. And I was like, dog, yeah. Like that sounds great.
I love it. Yeah, we literally had 2 people join that were like that recently. I kind of worded the same thing. I was like, so what made you choose the most abusive, difficult thing to do?
Yeah.
Because you have no athletic background and you're like 32. And he's like, I just really wanted to challenge myself. I'm like, cool. You could have probably just drove your car to a fucking wall and it would have been easier than what you're about to do. But let's get started.
Yeah.
The recovery from that probably would have been probably would have been easier actually. But Yeah, no, I think that's the key point is like you said, meeting them where you're at. I think a lot of the times people come in with expectations of like they aren't going to be welcomed, or because they're not the strongest person in the room, that is going to be problematic.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's not and like you got to eat humble pie.
Yeah.
um because you could be the strongest male in the room and get outlifted by a 55-kilo female because she just understands the mechanics of the sport better.
Right.
Or you could be a D1 like female athlete and just get wrecked by some female that's never done anything because she's just been doing it longer than you. And
Yep.
it's just part of the game. And the coach, like, as long as they're making it encouraging and having fun with it and like taking part in that relationship with the athlete, so they're not just like lost in the sauce the whole time, I think it's just going to be able to continue to grow. And one of the things, like, we have an intern right now named Richard, and anyone that's ever interned with me or anyone that's ever worked with me, I am very open with it, is you can literally know jack and shit about this coach or about coaching this sport. But if you engage with your athletes and you let them know, like, hey, I know I don't know that much, but I am actually working on getting you better. And when I go home, I look up stuff, I'm thinking, I'm trying to get you better, I'm looking up ways to develop you. And that athlete actually buys in that you're trying to make them better. Even if it's 1% better each week, they'll probably stick with you because they
Mm-hmm.
actually know you care about them, versus then them working with an athlete or a coach that's like the best in the world, but really doesn't give a fuck about them.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
builds
I
like
mean,
strong teams, in my opinion.
yeah. Well, I mean, just realizing, and I'll tell people, I'm like, dude, like, you're an athlete like 2 to 3 hours a day, and all the other hours you're still a human. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think understanding that aspect of the person goes way farther than understanding who someone is an athlete. I will say they're pretty directly correlated. Like if someone's like a pretty negative person, or maybe they're not, they're late to work, or those kind of things, it shows up in their training. But if someone's
Yeah.
like on it, which is why a lot of my high level athletes are like your type A leaders in their life. And so for them, it's nice because they can come in here and they don't have to be in charge. Like, there's someone else that they trust that is, maybe more assertive than they are, a little more type A, and they can just go in a back room, put their headphones in, and just do what they're told. Because in every other aspect of their life, they have to be in charge. And so, like, I would definitely say, like, I kind of attract those people because it's like, hey, like, I tell everyone, like you get what you give. And so if you give me
Yeah.
100%, if you'll, if you'll bleed for this, if you'll work hard for this, yeah, I'll meet you. I'll
Yep.
meet you with that same energy. But sometimes it's hard when it's like, hey, like, you have to do your part. I
Mm-hmm.
can't drive to your work and be like, hey, make sure you come to the gym when you're done. If you can get in the
Yeah.
door, we can take care of
100%.
everything else. Yeah.
Yeah. I know
So,
exactly what you're talking about. Because that right there is something that's really hard to teach, like your up and coming coaches and your
mhm.
interns, is like, because they kind of ride on that principle. Like, well, I got to call my member and make sure that it's like, do you though? Because like
Right.
that gets exhausting. But yeah, no, it is. It's like you can do so much for them, but you do have to meet them.
Yeah.
And that's a whole topic we could probably talk on in itself. Of I call it the 51-49% ratio of 51% lies on the athlete,
Yeah.
49% lies on the coach. It's a pretty even basis, but at the end of the day, a lot that 1% matters that does
Yep.
lie on the athlete.
Yeah.
So with opening bar, I almost did it.
Yeah. I know you
I
did. I
did.
saw
I
that.
almost did it. I didn't do it. We're gonna resist. Those that know know. Um, so opening bear, like when I opened my gym, I knew I kind of had like guiding principles of what I was gonna do. From running the CrossFit gym that I ran, and then the barbell club, and then opening my actual spot. Like, when you open your gym and you were gonna be coaching and be the head coach and stuff, like, I knew mine were going to be like obvious ones, be like good, be a good coach, be empathetic, study my craft, never stop studying, always be learning, push myself to continue to learn. And I pushed myself, like we were talking before this, like I have some wild people that I've interned or had as mentors in the sport from around the globe that range from athletes to coaches. Continue to study my craft, personally developed when it comes to being an athlete, stuff like that. Like, what would you say were some of the guiding principles when you were, kind of creating the vision of what Bear was going to be as a club and people looking outside in as you as a coach and also the club? What would you
Yeah.
say those were going to be?
I mean, I would say everything started just to give people a safe space. Like the world, it's been, obviously it's getting a little better, but when Bear started, nobody knew what was going to happen. People are losing their jobs. Things are super crazy. So for me, it all started to give people and myself a place of stability, a place of, I know what to expect when I'm in this one place. And so much of that was just like, we've all been in places where there's like one person who kind of ruins the vibe for the whole thing, or maybe you don't really know what you're going to get when that one person gets there. And so one of
Mm-hmm.
the things I kind of like set was like, hey, everyone's going to be held to the same standard. Like, I don't care if you're one of our best athletes. I don't care if you're a coach. I don't care if whatever. Like, you don't get to put your bad day on other people and then they have a bad day as well. Like, when you come in, you have to be present and you have to be there not only for yourself but for your teammates. Like, this is a place where everyone supports each other. So I think that was kind of the biggest paramount thing, was just like, hey, we're going to be good people. But I think the thing that happened along the way that I never expected was the pursuit of self-development. Realizing that, the best leaders, in my opinion, act in a way in which, because like when you look up to someone, you emulate their behavior. And so I think the thing that I probably never saw coming, that I did unintentionally, was really develop myself. And along developing myself, the people who I didn't even realize were watching, develop themselves as well. So,
Mm-hmm.
just, I mean, I would say just like working on myself, like endlessly. I've read about every leadership book. I've read so much about philosophy and
Yeah,
sociology.
me and you have actually, because you post a lot, me and you have actually read a lot of the same books.
Yeah, I read a lot, and then just understanding. I mean, my background in medical, I would say, really helped with like a biomechanical understanding, but just like almost being obsessed with efficiency. Like that's the whole sport, right? You can always make it better. You can, and just knowing how to communicate, like, hey, that was really good, and you did that one thing I asked you to do, but now let's talk about this. And so I think, I mean, the biggest thing around here is just being a good person, like wanting to be better, because if you hold yourself accountable in the gym, you're going to hold yourself accountable in your personal life. You're going to hold yourself accountable in everything else. Communication. Like, I'm always like, hey, you just got to talk to me. Like, you didn't feel like training last week because you're depressed or something happened. That's okay. Let's talk about it. Like, we
Yep.
can get through the other end of it. And I think one of the hardest parts about being a coach is that nobody wants to let you down. Like, nobody wants you to be upset with them or disappointed. And sometimes it's like, dude, I'm not going to be upset. Just talk to me.
Yeah. That's
And
kind
so
of that old school mentality we were talking
oh,
about.
absolutely. And just realizing these are people. But as weird as it sounds, like, I never really had a plan. Like, I never expected it to become this. Um, it always kind of just kept happening. And being a paramedic, I did 911 for 9 years. Like, my whole job was pivoting and adjusting, and this happens with someone in this, and just kind of, and that's probably one of my greatest skill sets, not only as a coach and a business owner, but in a back room as well, is just being able to adjust.
Thriving in chaos.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we moved into this spot, and I was like, I don't know if I can afford this. I don't know if we can fill this much space. Like, this is crazy. And Steph, who, has been with me forever, I couldn't have done any of this stuff without her. I mean, she did the build out on the gym, with like no notice. And I remember sitting on the floor and I was like, Steph, like, what if I can't do this? Like, what if this is too much space? What if, and she was like, Brittany, this place is we are going to be sitting here wishing we had more space before you know it.
Yeah.
She was like,
Yep.
I've been with you long enough that I know how this goes. And like, we're fine and
Yeah.
we've got it.
Yep.
Um,
That's
so I
such a
think just
fucked
like,
feeling when that happens too, because you have to look at that person and be like, "Fuck, you're right, dude."
yeah, but it's
Yeah,
terrifying
I've
when
ran
it's,
into that twice.
yeah, because it feels like it's, being the leader and the owner, you feel like it's all on you. And then at a certain point, you realize, like, as much as you're in so many people's corner, you also have so many people in your corner. Um, so I think I've just kind of like gotten better at communicating. I've gotten better at delegating. I've gotten better at asking for help. I've gotten better at just communicating, like, hey guys, just so you know, I'm kind of having a rough day. If I seem off, don't take it personal. I'm just kind of struggling. And people are like, yeah, what do you need?
Yeah.
So I think just like having that cohesive like work together. But I don't know. I think I've never had a plan. I've never had a vision board. I've never had a 5-year goal. I've never had an athlete goal. I've never had an income goal. It's kind of just like, I'm just going to coach people and take care of people and roll with whatever happens along the way.
Yeah, I think that's actually critical what you just said. And that's one thing that I've actually in the last couple of years gotten better at finally after like 15 years of like coaching, 17 whatever it is now, like actually asking for help.
Yeah.
And blame it on my upbringing, blame it on the army, blame it on whatever the hell we're going to blame it on, but like finally getting used to being okay with asking for help. And like you kind of hinted on earlier, it's like as a leader, as a gym owner, like people, you have that just unparalleled, like you feel like everyone's counting on you to do these things, X, Y, and Z. And like sitting there and finally realizing like, hey, I need help and I'm going to ask and finally be comfortable asking and delegating. It's weird because in the army, like I was fine with it. Like I had my guys and I could trust them and count on them. But it was also like part of the job. It was part of the role. And then like in this space, it's like I think the transactionary aspect of it.
That's exactly what it is.
Makes you not want to ask people for help. So it like,
because you're weird. Like, you pay me. Yeah, you pay me. So why are you going to help me put this piece of equipment together? Like, there's so many times that like, when we first built out the gym, I remember when the belt squat got in, I was like, man, this thing's so heavy. So I'm like kind of trying to drag one of the pieces across the ground by myself. And all of a sudden it got really light. And I was like, what? And I looked up and Aaron was just carrying it.
I was going to say, you have the, what you proclaimed is the best 109. Probably should have used him.
Yeah, I know. And then he literally was just like, hey, like, I got it. And I was like, okay, all right, fine.
Yeah, it's weird. And but like now I see myself talking to some of my athletes that have jobs where like, or like are in their mid-20s. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, listen, I didn't do it for 10 fucking years. I'm telling you, fucking start asking for help 5 years earlier than I did. And you will have more hair than me and you will have less stress than me when you're 25. I promise you that.
Yeah.
And like take this piece of advice. And it takes, I mean, it's weird. It takes courage. It takes like confidence. But it's super important. I'm happy that you actually brought that up because it's something that I myself have been learning and figuring out. And it's, I have a lot of really good members at the gym. Like that I can count on and rely on that for, and thank God for all of them. Just like you have. And it sounds like, again, the similarities between me and you is like we continue to have this like pack of people we can rely on to continue to make like the environment at the gym wholeheartedly like a great space for people to train in.
Yeah, I mean, when we so I don't know if I ever told you this. So on our drive back from nationals, I got a phone call and was told that we were being evicted out of our gym because
you did tell me that.
So I was paying the CrossFit owner rent and he was supposed to be paying.
Pause real quick. If you remember, it was you and it was Kevin, I think.
Both
you guys at the
Audio
same
just
time.
Cut out.
I think so. If I remember correctly, at that same time, it was you and then Kevin. Both you guys were getting evicted at the same time.
Yes.
And I got the phone call from both of you guys. I was like almost within the same 4 hours. I was like, what the fuck is going on to the world?
Yeah, the difference is we had 72 hours to figure it out, get a space, and get everything moved in. And, like, I called my first ever landlord, and I was like, I need a space, whatever. But the point is, like, I thought I had a plan, that fell apart. And then within, like, 24 hours, I had to go get the money order for rent, get everything figured out. Nicole and Christian got a U-Haul, drove to the gym. We had, like, 30 members show up. They loaded the biggest U-Haul possible with everything from the gym, brought it over, and as I was like opening the door because I just got the keys, the U-Haul pulled up and they just started unloading stuff.
Yeah.
And like we had members just stay here all day, and I was like, guys, if we can just get platforms put together, the rest we can figure out later, because we had to do all the build out. We had to tear all these walls down and stuff. And so I was just like, just get the platforms built. And they were like, where do we start? I was like, start in that corner and just start building. And I will tell you when it's too many, but just start going. But yeah, and there was stuff like that. I remember just watching and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's awesome when that type of stuff happens. No, that's great. The other thing to kind of continue talking on the bear side of things, before we move into the real meat and potatoes, is the bear creative stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you were telling me on FaceTime the other day the actual reason you did Bear Creative. So let's talk on what Bear Creative Co. is.
Yep.
Let's
So,
go ahead and like market the shit out of that, because I want other gyms to also know what's going on
yeah.
with that.
So one Sunday, I was sitting there programming, and I was talking to the company who I was working with that did our screen printing, and I was like, waiting on them to finalize a design and waiting on them to print it. And it's like, sometimes you never know how much you're going to pay. And so just like everything is so up in the air when you work with creatives, like it just is. And up until then, I had never done anything creative in my entire life. Like I just never was. I was always very black and white, very logical, whatever. So I had this idea that I was like, hey, I bet we can just do it ourselves. And so I ended up, Rowdy, actually, I called him and I was like, hey, do you think you could teach yourself how to do screen printing? And he was like, probably. First of all, it was a terrible idea. I don't know why I thought calling a 14-year-old boy and asking him to learn how to screen print was the way to go about it. But that's how it got started. And I was just kind of like, hey, what do you think? So I got on Facebook Marketplace, ended up finding mostly what we needed. And then I don't remember. And then I think shortly after that, Estelle and I went to Switzerland. We ended up staying there some extra time. I had some downtime and I was like, you know what? I'm going to teach myself Adobe. Like I'm going to teach myself how to essentially do design work. And so I didn't do tutorials. I didn't do any classes. I literally just paid for Adobe and spent hours just obsessing over stuff, how to fix stuff, use some AI to kind of learn how to like edit stuff.
Yeah, you basically did everything that I did when I was like 15.
Yeah. So taught myself how to do Adobe, and then it just kind of got started. And so there's a lot of reasons. So part of the reason was like I didn't really want to depend on someone else for our own stuff. And then I was kind of like, well, this is teaching a skill set to an athlete that they could use later on. And then it kind of just, as I more thought about it, I was like, dude, like, how often do these athletes have these part-time jobs or full-time jobs that don't enable them to travel? They don't have the PTO, they don't have the time off, they don't have the extra cash, right? And I was like, well, I don't really need to make more money with Bear. I really just want to have my apparel in-house. Like I just really want to cut costs on my own stuff. That's enough of a perk for me. And so then I created essentially like I thought about it and like was like, okay, well, what if I pretty much give everything back to the athletes? What if I don't really make any money from it? And then I essentially create jobs. So then Anna learned how to do it. Right around that time, Estelle had moved here. And so all of us have kind of taught ourselves because it's hard to teach someone else when you don't really know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I've kind of just been doing all the design stuff because I'm just trying to get better at it. And then Rowdy, Anna, Estelle, and then Zach and a few others are kind of starting because we're starting to get busy. So pretty much what it is yeah, thanks. So for other businesses, other gyms, or really just anyone who's looking for stuff, kind of the perks are like our minimums are lower. We only require 20. I actually prefer smaller orders because I feel like you can spend more time on stuff. We pretty much like we don't have the up charge that a lot of places do because they're trying to pay an overhead. So it's like, hey, like if I can pay my athletes and have some money in the bank when we want to upgrade stuff, that's totally cool. So lower minimums, your cost is going to be lower, but you're giving back to athletes, and you're giving them a creative outlet. So if they're having a rough day training, they can come up here and at least get a little bit of that dopamine from kind of feeling successful. It's kind of fun to do, and it's kind of like a good stress relief. It's a way for me to give back to the community and other clubs. But it's cool because it's like at this point, it's pretty much created like 3 to 4 part-time jobs that are helping athletes be able to afford this sport. But yeah, so we've done t-shirts. We've done some other stuff, but mostly t-shirts. We've done some stuff actually for the military. We did a military, like an Air Force group. I don't remember what they're called.
Squadron, probably, if it was like an Air Force
unit. We did stuff for a local pickup basketball company. There's a franchise. We did 160 shirts last week for them. That was really cool.
Nice. It's a sizable order for you guys.
Yeah, it was huge. But yeah, so it's kind of a thing for us to be able to give back. And then we have more creative freedom with our own apparel, which is always done pretty well. But
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. But yeah, and it's just been
That's
growing.
good.
Like while we're in Thailand, Steph is the upstairs loft that I'm in. Steph's closing it in and climate controlling it, so it's more comfortable this summer.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah, I'm
kind of
sure
just
that's real enjoyable working on a heater and a screen press during the
it's
summer in Texas.
so hot. It's so
Yeah, ask me how many times
hot.
I've been to Texas.
I don't. How many times have you been here? It's pretty hot. I mean, you
Yeah,
adjust, but it definitely up.
I only do the heat if the U.S. government ships me there.
Yeah, I mean, I would say our setup at the gym really helps because we have 6 bay doors on each side, and the
Yeah,
ceiling's
I'm
really
so
high.
jealous of your guys' fucking Baydor situation.
Yeah, I mean,
That's some bullshit.
yeah, it's pretty dope.
What you need, though, I will tell you, and I like don't do this because it's probably just a massive security issue. Have you seen? And I've seen one gym that had these. They were beautiful. The see-through panel.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Oh my god, it's beautiful though.
Well, yeah, but also everyone can see. No way.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's
it would
so
be
beautiful.
cool, but no.
Yeah,
Maybe if
I
I
was
own
in
the
one.
building.
I was in one when a rainstorm was going on,
Okay,
and it
that's
was
cool.
like just a really cool experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you know, one thing I have you working on some stuff for the podcast right now.
Yep.
And we're just throwing around some designs and stuff. But the thing I think that I like the most is like when I get like I love my screen printing guys that are here. I've worked with them for years. This company when I own this, Jekyll Hyde Apparel, like shout out to Tim and that company. Like they've done awesome things. The company that we use for screen printing here, they do great work. But like when I go to that art department, like they don't know my sport. And that's the one thing that I think is great about you guys is like weightlifting groups can go to you guys and like you know the genre. So it's easy to sit there and be like, yeah, man, I want like a lizard like sitting on top of a pile of bumper plates with like a barbell in its tail. Because if I did that with them, I'd get like the metal 45-pound plates and then like some fucking hand curl bar, some shit. Like it's just not going to be the same. You guys, you understand the vibe that they're going to be looking for.
Yeah, we did a shirt recently for 1 kilo that we actually just
I saw that shirt.
So cool. And Will was like, I'm not creative, but I have this idea of like this globe and it's broken half and it's like the crust is showing and it's like weightlifting stuff. And I was like, okay, yeah. And so Anna like sat down on the iPad and just like drew and like put a Romaleo in there and there's like an Addy Star and there's like bumper plates and chains. It's so cool. Yeah, exactly. But exactly. Just one looks like it. But it's really cool because it's like stuff like that or people that just have ideas. Like we made 2 shirts for 1 kilo and I was like, well, explain to me what 1 kilo means to you. And Will explained it. And so we did like some shirts that were kind of like double entendres where it was like, sometimes all you need is 1 kilo. And it was like, so for it's like, yeah, like for the average weightlifter, that also applies, but it also applies to the club. So I think just helping people, because if Bear's done one thing well, it's branding. And so people come to us and I'm like, just being able to help other brands is cool because it's like, we can only put out so much of our own stuff at one time. And so being able to just grow other businesses is super dope.
No, I've always liked your guys' branding. I have, I think, 2 of your shirts upstairs.
That's awesome.
And like, it's one of those things where like my wife, she owns her own business. I've owned mine. And like branding is something that's important. And it's one thing weightlifting gyms, like they don't do well.
No,
like
not at all.
Gym owners and like whether it's CrossFit gym or weightlifting gyms, they do not do it well because the situation is they usually are just athletes that really like working out and they open a gym. Or they're people that just like fitness and they want to help other people achieve fitness. So they're not branding people. They're not business owners. Like I'm not a great fucking business owner. Like you already talked about you being a business owner and like neither of us were just like, I went and got an MBA. Like, no, fuck that. Not. Like this is renegade shit we're doing. And like we learn it along the way, but a lot of gyms do not do it well. So I think by having groups like yours where they can be like, listen, I'm not good at branding, but I know I like sharks and we're in Florida and we love weightlifting. Fucking let's do it. And you just hand it down, then it's easy at that point. And then they can go ahead and learn the other pieces like the Instagram and TikTok, whatever medium they want to do that stuff on.
Well, you just have to like, I'll tell people, I'm like, look, like, do you have any idea what blank you want to print on? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, all right, well, like, you know.
We need blank. paper.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, well, normally if you go to a print company, they're going to charge you the most they can for the cheapest T-shirt possible. And so I'll be like, all right, well, there's like, so we'll use like a Gildan soft style, which is like it's a pretty nice shirt, but they're cheaper. I'm like, it's a great like gym shirt if that's what you want, something for people to train in. I personally prefer like comfort color heavyweight shirts. They are more expensive, but I'm like, dude, if you want to sell a shirt that someone goes in their closet and they're like, okay, what am I going to wear today, right? It doesn't matter how cool your design is. If the shirt sucks, no one's going to wear it. They're just not going to.
And it's not
So,
comfortable, yeah.
no. And so I'm like, you have to print on items. And I think that's one thing that I understand really well is just like I bought a hoodie from a band hoodie. And I bought that hoodie and I would put it on and I was like, oh my God. This is like the most comfortable hoodie I've ever wore. So I ended up like going down the rabbit hole, figuring out exactly what blanket was, ordered one, made sure I liked it. And I've already told our people like, hey, next winter we're printing on this blank.
What brand is it?
It's the Independent Trading Co. and it's like their midweight.
Dude.
Yeah, it's a very heavy hoodie. It's 10 ounces.
Bro. Independent.
Yeah. But so they have a lot, but this is like, it's a 10-ounce hoodie, which is not normal because it's so heavy, but it's so comfortable.
So
even just that.
We totally sidetracked, but look up
the
hoodie. I always do embroidery work for like a really, really nice one, Britt.
Yeah.
This is totally off subject, everyone. So deal with it. It's they have a heavyweight tech hoodie that has an unzippable hoodie. Everyone in Texas will die if they wear this, but it's got thumb holes. It's got an unzippable hoodie. It's water resistant material on the top. And we've ran it like 4 or 5 times. It's like the gym's like high level, like really nice hoodie. It's so nice and it's independent. Look up that one. It's so good though. Oh my God.
You know, one thing I'll say that, you know, I'm sure USAW's warm-ups sometimes suck. But the warm-ups they sent us for World Cup, it's the nicest jacket I've ever gotten from USAW. It has the part where you unzip it and the hood comes out. And then you can tuck it back in and zip it. But I think that's the thing is like a lot of gyms, they're just like, we want sweatpants and a t-shirt. And I'm like, yeah, which one? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's going to be super helpful. I hope to see more things like that. You know, me and my wife have talked about like branding businesses for gyms and like starting one of those even just to like teach social media shit. So it's good that you're doing like the soft product stuff and marketing stuff. Like there's so much room to grow in that type of stuff, especially if athletes are getting help from it. So you have a gym that's hella busy. You have this other thing that you're running that's hella busy and obviously needs leadership from you. Yeah. You're married. You have 2 dogs or 1 dog?
2 dogs, and we have a one-eyed cat.
Okay, you're like the 3rd person I know that has a one-eyed cat. It's like a thing now.
Yeah.
You're going to school full time.
Yep.
So let's talk about time management, and we're gonna omit the text message chains.
We've had. I have become a pretty bad communicator recently. I literally told one of my coaches text me about something. Hold on. Why? Oh, my AirPod kicked off again. Why does it keep doing that? Okay. Can you hear me now? It keeps popping on other AirPods. Okay. So I literally a couple days ago was like, hey, Selena, I know you text me. What you stated to me didn't really merit a response. And I had 48 unread text messages. So I just didn't respond. And I was like, well, whatever. Anyway, I also do have, I think, what trip? We went to Guatemala together, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So you met Anna Sierra.
Yep.
Okay. So she actually, when she turned 18, she moved in with me and Nick. And actually a month or 2 ago, I actually like legally adopted her. So technically she's like my kid, which is pretty cool. So
Congrats
it's been really, it's been pretty good for her. But anyway, so that's a whole other thing is like navigating, air quote, having a kid and like teaching someone how to like talk to people and how to like just communicate.
I have a 4-year-old and I don't want a teenager because he talks like a teenager. So I don't want a teenager. So you just skipped all the other stuff right to that. So
so like
I've met that athlete and good.
Great kid. Great kid.
So good
She,
kid.
yeah, she's working. So I like helped her. She finished EMT school about 6 months ago. So she's working as an
Awesome.
EMT.
Congrats.
Hilariously enough, her supervisor was my supervisor like 10
That's
years ago.
funny. That's a small
It's
world.
crazy. Yeah, and he remembers me. But anyway, so yeah, so like navigating, obviously a relationship, I don't know if I'd call it parenthood, but sometimes it very much feels like it when I'm like yelling at her
Yeah.
for not cleaning the guest bathroom or things like that.
It's guidance. It's taking care of someone. So you have all these things going on. Like, I wanted to take some time here and chat, like, because I think this podcast isn't just for athletes. I think a lot of it is for athletes, but it's also for coaches, and it's not just for weightlifters. It's for athletes in general. So I
Yeah.
don't always try to bring on just like weightlifting. A lot of times being a athlete in any sport or being a coach in any sport, because you dedicate so much time to it, you have areas that falter, and or you have a lot of issues trying to manage your time in these areas, because you want to excel at all of them, because just the nature of being a coach, you want to do well and perform in these areas. So how have you been doing with time management, like some ups and downs? Like, I know I've faltered over the years in areas, and I feel like for the first time in maybe the last 5 years, I'm starting to really like kind of understand. And I definitely think some changes I made that were massive changes in my business, but also like having a kid,
Right.
kind of grounded me on some ideas of like what I thought was important versus what actually is, and stuff like that, were just changes. Um, like the insatiable like need to learn. I like, it's an addiction for me, so I get obsessive with work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've had to grow through that. What about you? Like, how have you been managing time? What are maybe some hacks that you've learned that maybe some other coaches and athletes would enjoy to hear?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, outside of, I would say, those things that we talked about, I don't really have like on Sundays normally when we're programming, there's something on TV, but we're normally not watching it. Like, I'm usually just working. I think just like being more efficient with my time, as far as like I try to stay up on like communication so it doesn't get behind. Like, I try not to have 58 unread text messages, answering emails when they need to be answered. Not just, I think mostly just not getting behind on stuff, and also realizing that like I have people in my life who want to spend time with me. And I think that was probably my biggest issue up until, I would say, very recently, is I would just get so caught up in the stuff I needed to get done, and I almost was just like, well, you should understand I have things going on. Like, what do you mean you want to spend time with me? And then it was kind of like, well, maybe I should realize I'm actually like blessed and privileged to have these people that like want to spend time with me. And so I think that gets really overwhelming sometimes when you almost have like this drive and this pursuit to just like do the big things, make the big difference. And forget that those people that do support you while you have those goals also have needs that they want from you as well. So I think just like communicating, right? Just like, hey, just so you know, like, this is what I have going on this week of school. Hey, this is what I have going on with this. And just trying to like find little moments, right? Like, hey, like, you want to go grab coffee, or hey, do you want to go do this? I think it was one day last week, Anna and I both needed to go to the eye doctor, and I was like, let's just go together. Like, let's just go knock it out. We'll go, see the doctor, get our prescription, whatever. So we like did that together, grabbed food when we left. I do most of my schoolwork and actually design work at night when Nicole's, asleep, and I just work on stuff. And so
Yep.
I think finding the right moments to do certain things is huge. Like I said, like, my schoolwork and design stuff, I do the best when I'm not interrupted. So I wait till people go to sleep. In the morning is a really good time for me to like spend time with Nick or spend time with Anna, because like chaos really hasn't happened yet. Try to wake up a little earlier. Like, one of the things is, if one of them I know is going to work at a certain time and they're going to wake up maybe 30 minutes before I'll wake up earlier so I can like have coffee and spend time with them. But I think just communicating, like, hey, like, this is really what I want out of my life. Like, I really want to do this really big, cool thing, and I appreciate you being with me. And also just communicating, like, we're not going to have a normal relationship. Like, I'm not that normal person who's going to do like X, Y, Z for you, but I'll try to do like B, C, and D. Like, I'll offer you what I can. But I think just like, man, not being lazy, as weird as it sounds. I've talked about this before. There's some times where Man, this morning I got in my car getting ready to leave, and I remembered that there were a couple shirts from our last order that we ended up having to clean some ink off. I had to wash the shirts, and they were sitting on the banister upstairs. I got in my car, put it in reverse, and I was like, man, I need those shirts. I was like, you know what? I'll deal with it tomorrow. And I was like, you know what? No. And I put it back in park, got out of my car, walked inside, and got the shirts because, and it sounds dumb, but I will literally tell myself in my head, like, Brittany, don't be lazy.
Yeah.
Like even
no, I got you. I totally get
taking
it.
out the trash, my accessories, right? Or just like not having the hard conversation. Like sometimes like, I'll be in a mood and I'll say something to Nicole that was probably kind of being a dick. And I'll be like, you know what? I should probably go apologize and take responsibility. And like, I
I
don't really
never
want
do
to.
that.
Yeah.
I do
I
that
have
a lot, unfortunately.
I have a
Still
joke.
working on that part of saying dumb shit.
Yeah, Steph and I joke around about like sometimes when you're just too far into an argument, you can't back out. Like then you have to wait till later. Like nah, like I've already like stood on this too hard to back off right now.
Yeah.
I'll wait till tomorrow.
Yeah, my joke is I fought the war on terror, so I'm really good at just fighting a fucking losing battle. So I just like keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, my grandfather that was like a World War II veteran used to get in my shit about that. He's like, you
Yeah.
just need to stay yes dear. I'm like, yeah, but that's I had to go fight the fight, even if it was losing. That's what we did. So
Yeah, and I think knowing when to be
game. Yeah, it's I think that's the thing that you nailed it is like it is a non-traditional relationship when it comes to being a coach because like we aren't there at dinner, for example. That's one area that like is rough because like we coach at night, for example, and like that's something that's come up with like us is basically the dinner conversation is like I'm not there for dinners and like figuring out okay, well on the nights that I am like let's do a better job of trying to like sit at the dinner table and just make it important on the nights that I can because the other 4 nights a week or 5 whatever it is like I'm not gonna be. Mm-hmm. And like having our son understand that like this is a family dinner night, so we sit together and like he's only 4, so he's like figuring that out and watching rabbits on TV is way more important than family entertainment. But
right,
it's definitely like you said about kind of like making the time, setting it aside, managing it. Like it's just a constant battle. I think there's been a lot of times I've failed at that.
Yeah, I think too, just like learning that like you don't have to be that like headstrong, hard ass leader all the time. Like it's like learning when to be soft and like it's okay to like Nicole's an athlete too, and that's a really hard dynamic. Is there's times where like I'm like the person who's gonna like pull your head out of your ass. I'm the person who's gonna like say the words that's gonna motivate you. One time Neil told me, he's like, B, sometimes when you talk, it makes me want to go to war. Like it's just like so like inspired. And people don't always need that. And Nicole is someone who like really doesn't ever need that. Like she kind of just needs you to tell her like, hey, like it'll be okay. Like that fell off. And that's kind of not me as a coach. So it's hard. And so recently I've really been working on just being softer and just being like, hey, like it's okay. And almost in those times being more of a wife than a coach and being like, hey, like, do you need anything? And not like, hey, let me actually fix your pole.
Yeah. That's a good conversation point because that's kind of been like similar. I'm a big fixer person, and that is definitely my mentality.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's like a coach mentality, right? Mm-hmm. And that's something where my wife sits there and tells me, she's like, I don't need things fixed. Like I just need you to like hear me and tell me it's going to be okay. And it's very hard for me. And sounds like similar on your side. Like that's what we do. We fix.
Well, it's not me. I'm kind of like, because to me, for myself, if I can't fix something, there's nothing I can do about it. So if something's right. If something's bothering you, if something's bothering you and you just want to complain about something, because that's never me. Like I'm never just going to complain about something to complain. I'm just going to move on with my life. So when people complain to me, I'm like, oh, you want a solution to your problem? And they're like, no. Mm-hmm. Why the fuck are you talking about it then? And they're like, I just want to talk about it. And I'm like, for what point?
Yeah.
So that's been an adjustment, even with like friends, right? Like they just want to like bitch about something, and I'm like, oh well, let me help you find the solution to your problem. And they're like, no, that's not what I want.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we're both doing our thing. We're both growing. It's good to see somebody else kind of on the same wavelengths. And I think, again, that's why me and you get along on many a times. I always try to annoy you whenever I can. It's always a fun, encouraging time. But I think your athletes, they enjoy it. So
sometimes they're like, who is that guy? And I'm like,
why does he talk to you like you guys have known each other?
Literally, like it's like you at the Arnold. I'm sure you had multiple conversations with Doherty, right?
Oh yeah.
So he came up, and there's never like a 30-second conversation with Doherty. It's like 30 minutes, and then he like has to run off. So he came up
just randomly, like most obscure exit ever.
Yes. So he came up to me and just started like talking, and I had like 4 athletes around me, and they were like, "What is going on?" And he's just like talking and talking and talking, and then he's like, okay, gotta go. See you later, Britt," and like fist bumped me and walked off. And someone was like, "Who the fuck was that?" And I'm like, "That's just Doherty."
Yep, that's just him.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
I'm doing a podcast with him and 2 of the kids that have like trained with him for like 10 years. I'm really excited.
Which ones?
We're gonna do Haley, and I'm trying to do Seth. So we're gonna do Haley and Seth, and the whole podcast is all gonna be about youth weightlifting. Because they've been with them for so long. So we're going to talk about kind of the dynamic.
Yeah, Kevin does such a good job with kids. Like, and it's like he has them all loaded meets. I mean, I've known Haley because, I mean, her and Bree were making teams as youths, I guess it was. And so, like, I've seen so many of these youth and junior kids grow up with my kids growing up.
Oh, yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah, and now you talk to them, and they're like in college, and they're like little adults, and you're like, this is crazy.
Dude, they make me feel so old. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Awful. Yeah, I'm excited because like we're going to talk about like what it's like to literally be like from a child to adult with the same coach and that whole dynamic. So
yeah, I know Seth has been with Kevin since he was tiny.
Yeah. So speaking of your athletes, though, all right, we're going to segue to the end of this episode. Your athletes, all right. We're going to talk about cupcakes real quick because that's going to be a part of this. I asked you, was it the Arnold 2 years ago? Was it the Arnold that with the cupcakes I got you? Yes, because I went to North Market.
Yeah, I think it was. Yep. And I don't remember what happened. I think I made a joke about like not burning your athlete's card if you got me cupcakes.
No, I needed you to hold a platform space for me.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
I needed you to hold a platform space for me because we had like 4 athletes going on the other side, but I had one going and the platforms were off or something. So I basically begged you to hold a platform space for me and I would pay you. And then somehow it ended up being me like paying you guys 6 cupcakes. It was like $36 in fucking cupcakes, but I think they thought I was joking, and then I showed up with like literally 6 massive cupcakes. So
yeah,
so it's just been a thing. So we're gonna go ahead and we always play an end game just to kind of lighten the mood at the end. But we talking on time management and all these things that we do over there at Bear, and all the things you do. We're gonna go ahead and play a little game.
Oh man, okay.
And see if Miss Brit can stay focused. And I sent Brit a fun toy. Those of you that are older than 20 might remember this thing. This is the new and improved, apparently, Bop It.
It just seems smaller and cheaper, honestly.
Yeah, well, they probably got bigger margins now that Bop It's not a big thing.
Yeah, sure.
So Brit, we might need you to like stand up to play. We want to see that device, or maybe just hold it. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Gonna hold it like a trumpet now.
My ADHD is already overactive.
We're gonna play a game called Focus This Pack. All right. We're gonna see if you can thrive in chaos. And the way the game's gonna work, all right, is if you can answer the following questions and not mess the game up, all right, I will purchase Bear 30 cupcakes. All right. Which is my famous dues for your barbell club.
Yeah.
All right. You must not fail 3 times during the game. All right. Also, you can't sit there and like cheat and take like ridiculously long pauses to answer questions, et cetera.
Well, realistically, the faster I answer them, the less bopping and I have to do.
Well, that's fair as well. So, everyone's a winner at this point. So, but let's go ahead and get that bad boy spinning up for our first question.
I literally put batteries in it this morning. Oh, wait, hold on.
Okay,
hold on.
Bop it. Twist
Come on.
Pull it.
Who is this man?
I have no clue.
Twist it.
Sam Houston.
Okay.
Pull it.
Dogs or cats, Britt?
Huh?
Bop it.
Dogs or cats?
Bop it. Bop it.
Do
Dogs.
you like dogs or cats?
Oh, hello.
What was the first
Score,
one?
11.
Listen, I have 2 audios going on right now. It is crazy. Dogs.
Bop it to start.
All right, I'm
All right,
gonna start it
let's
up
go.
again.
Tie. Score, 11. Bop it.
Brittany, do you like the snatch or the clean and jerk?
Snatch.
Pull it.
You prefer getting an athlete with no sporting background or with one?
Pull it.
No.
Twist it.
What's more important to you for your athletes?
Bop it.
Better nutrition or sleep?
Twist it.
Sleep.
Pull it. Bop it.
What's the name of this
Bop
fish?
it. Bop it.
What?
Pull it.
What fish is this?
Pull it. Twist it. Bop it. Pull it.
I have no idea.
Watermelon bass.
Yeah.
Who's in the middle?
Too fast for you.
Lasha.
Score, 19.
And the other one's Naruto.
Bop it to
Oh,
start.
you're gonna get shamed. You're gonna get shamed if you don't say it right.
Naruto.
I'm going to sleep.
There you go. And that's a watermelon bass.
How the
The
fuck am I gonna
watermelon-
know a fish?
It's your state fish, not mine. All right, I'm just
That
saying.
doesn't. Do you think I have time to go fishing?
No, but I had time to Google it and
Yeah, that's
just
true.
dig on Texas shit.
Yeah, whatever.
But it did distract you, which worked. So
It did.
And yes, good job.
Why are you asking me about fish?
Was it the fish that distracted you or Lasha? Because you knew
Well,
the answer. You wanted to
you
skip
said-
over it.
You were like, "What fish is this?" And I'm staring at Lasha, and I'm like, "That's not a fish. That's a weightlifter."
All right, we're almost done. So good
All
job
right.
on Naruto. I'll give you credit though.
All right.
right.
Well, I have a lot of nerds. Okay.
Not nerds.
Solo.
It's just-
Tie. Score,
Okay.
19.
What's your favorite genre of music?
Twist it.
Oh, like emo
Pull it.
music,
Hardest thing for an athlete to learn.
Twist it.
communication.
Pull it.
Pizza or pasta?
Twist it. Oh, I remember my
There you go.
first time
I
playing
fucked up.
soccer. Score, 6.
I was like, because you would talk when it was talking, and I was like, I have no idea what's going on.
I know.
So I would try to look up and read. Pizza with pineapple, and I don't ever want to go out. So there's your next 2 answers.
And then let's go ahead.
Oh my god.
Boom! Down the archives.
Literally.
What is this picture and how fucking miserable were you when it was taken?
Yeah, it was so bad. At the end of that workout, there were rope climbs, and I remember I went down the rope wrong on one of them and totally trashed my leg. That was
no.
2013. I think one of the mini CrossFit competitions I did.
Nice.
Yeah, it was the last
Nice.
one I think that I did.
You were 2 questions away, Brett.
I know.
All right. I will put this out there, Brittany.
Okay.
To redeem the club, because I assume you'll be at nationals.
Yeah.
We will go head to head on that Bop It toy.
All right.
If you
But no
bring
one
it.
can talk to me while I'm doing it.
No, yeah, it'll be a closed room challenge with judges represented from each club.
What we should do is do it while we have 2 athletes going back and forth, and we have to pass it off in between.
Oh no, it has to be me and you.
I'm like whispering in their shoulder while I'm twisting it and bopping
Yeah,
it.
we're coaching them.
Right.
But I'm confident that I'm going to beat you because I can literally know that I can have that thing with you for the next 3 months and you will not practice.
Absolutely not. Nope.
So, good job. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate your time. I know you're
Thanks
busy.
for having me. Just a little bit.
Is Estelle there? Does she
Yeah,
want to
she's
come say hi?
Hey, come here.
We can say good luck. She's got like paint all over her fucking face and hands.
She's in the sweat. She's in the. Here, I'll even give her an AirPod. It's the left one. Okay. Hello. There we
Hello.
go.
We're just saying good luck to you.
Oh, thank you.
Have
We're
fun.
gonna ride.
Enjoy.
We're gonna ride elephants in Thailand, just so you know.
Yes.
So when I was there, we did the tigers.
Did you ride a tiger?
No, I didn't ride a tiger. We went to like a tiger sanctuary. There was little tiger kittens.
I
Very
swear
cute.
to God, if you don't do this.
I think we should go ride tigers.
Piros
think
did the
you-
elephants. Piros did the elephant stuff, so he knows about those. But tuk tuks. That's all I got to say. You guys got to make sure you ride some tuk tuks.
What's a
Those
tuk tuk?
boys- Tuk-tuks are the little carts that they drive like psychopaths.
Okay.
It's a wild experience. That's all I gotta say. It's like taxi cab drivers in New York on methamphetamine. It's insane.
Beautiful. That's how I feel most times when I'm driving
What
somewhere.
if we
so.
steal a tiger kitten?
Uh,
Obi needs a friend.
You just said that publicly. Shh.
She did.
We adopt one.
Yes.
We actually looked into the process of bringing a baby cow back from Switzerland, and it was pretty extensive.
Yeah, it was.
That's okay. I know the full legal parameters to owning an otter in Michigan and how to get one if I ever happen chance around one. So
I mean, I wanted one while I was living in Michigan. I still do.
And
can you have them in
technically-
Texas?
About it, but
technically, there are wild otters now along the Detroit River again.
You can have raccoons in Texas.
yeah.
Well, I mean, we have a Tracy, and
Okay.
she's our local trash panda.
Local,
So,
yeah. I have a gym full of raccoons most days.
I was at a
Yeah,
hotel once,
so do we.
and there was a garbage can full of raccoons.
That's amazing.
I just like heard something, and then I look over, and there's like 10 raccoons in the garbage. I was like, oh my god.
Family dinner.
like a herd, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good luck. Have fun.
you.
Enjoy it.
Thank you.
And then Brittany, thank you again for your time. In regards to people wanting to follow along or anyone looking to have you do any work for them, let's go ahead. All the tags, handles, where to find you, all that stuff for everything Brittany Rucker.
So my Instagram is slimthick64. It's been that since 2018, and at this point I can't change it. I had someone come up to me in 2021, and they were like, "Oh my god, are you slimthick64?" I was like, "Yeah." So yeah, slimthick64. Instagram is just Bear Barbell. Bear Creative Co. is Bear. I love when people DM Bear Creative like it's not me. And so then I usually I've had my athletes DM Bear Creative because I have quite a few athletes that own gyms, and they'll one of my guys, Michael Hale, he owns a gym, and he DM'd Bear Creative. He was like, "Hey guys, just wondering, my name's Michael Hale. I'm one of your teammates," and I was like, "Hey dog, it's me. Like, you good?"
You need like an alternate personality to run it.
I know. Well, so Eli runs. I don't know if you know this. Eli runs Bear Barbell's Instagram, and sometimes he comments stuff, and I'm like, I hope people know it's not me.
Yeah.
Yep. Because sometimes, I mean, it's funny and it's really good, but sometimes I'm just like, Eli.
Yeah. Molly actually gets mad when I respond from 4-star because
Dude,
she's like,
I get in trouble. I'll repost something and I'll get a text and I'm like, Eli, I'm sorry. I thought it was mine. And he's like, don't do my job. I'm like, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Molly yells at me. Yep. Yes.
Yeah, so now I only post on social media on non-Eli days. So he posts, we have a plan Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then I'll post videos on other days. But anyway, so if you do DM Bear, it is Eli. Feel free to fuck with him. But Bear Creative is usually me, or you can just email us or go to our website. Our website does have a contact us now on the Bear Creative page where you can input what you need, what you're looking for, if you need brainstorming, if you just need printing. We do design work. We can brainstorm ideas for you. You can work on branding. You can do printing. If it involves doing something creatively, we probably can help you out.
Awesome. All right. Well, and then when are you lifting, dog? When do we have an estimate so people can watch?
Oh, Estelle lifts Monday. It's 4 p.m. in Thailand, so it's 12 hours exactly, which is great for Central Time. So 4 a.m. In Thailand is when Estelle will be lifting. So yeah, on the 8th, Monday, April 8th.
All right. Well, best of luck to y'all. Have fun. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. And take care.
Yep.